want to talk about what you guys have built, but first, talk about what the iPhones and the Android phones are doing in terms of surveillance, tracking, data collection, data sales. So, what does that look like when you're on your iPhone and you're downloading all these third-party apps and you're agreeing to the terms of service? Like what is actually happening with your data?
Yeah, so I'll walk you through how this works. So the way I would describe the risks with personal information on a phone is like a pyramid, like different levels of risk that get more acute and more rare as you go to the top. But at the bottom level, the big risk that affects everyone, and it's very serious, is what I would describe as like passive app tracking. So you have a phone, you download an app, and for the most part, what you don't realize is that phone isn't only that app isn't only calling the servers for that app. Like, I mean, you could be doing anything. Let's say you're using an app to look at property like Zillow, and you're looking at land you're interested in, right? Zillow, the app, is calling servers that show the pictures, the zip code, the prices, right? Those are Zillow servers. Makes sense. It's also calling dozens of other servers that have nothing to do with the content you're looking at in your app. And there's actually a retired Army comms guy on Twitter. I don't know if you saw this. I'll shoot you the link. Who recently just did a test. I'm really glad more people are doing this because we've had cyber companies do this, where he compared an iPhone with our phone just running normal apps. And in his test, the iPhone is making, in total, twice as many calls as our phone. Or the actual difference is it's 46% less calls are being made by our phone. What that means is you're still using the normal apps. You're using Zillow or, Instagram, whatever. You're using an app on the phone, but our phone is stopping it from calling all these other servers, which are data harvesters. So this is a big difference. And in his test, and we found this as well, even when you tap Ask App Not to Track, it doesn't do what you think. And I think if we just pause there for a second, when your iPhone says like, can you, the app wants your contact list, yes or no, right? You've had that. You're deciding, right? Does Ask App Not to Track sound like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You think you're saying don't track, but the language doesn't say that. You're asking it not to. That's very
You're not commanding it not to.
Correct. You're not providing it access or not. It's not a permission in that way. You're saying, hey, just so you know, my preference would be this. And the app is like, thanks, track. So what his test is showing and what our tests have shown is that Ask App Not to Track does not prevent these apps from calling data harvesting servers. And what the test we did, what it showed was in a 1 hour window, a phone that's running 33 apps, all the stuff you use, Pinterest, Expedia, whatever, just, Spotify. An iPhone with Ask App Not to Track selected for every app made 3,181 calls to known third-party data harvesters. And in those calls, exchanged 270,000 packets of data in 1 hour, which ends up being over 60 packets of data per second. Now, most of this is like your location or any Bluetooth signal of anyone you're around, but they're constantly phoning home to these servers. And in the same test, our phone made 0 calls to these servers. So back to the pyramid. At the bottom level of the pyramid, the biggest risk we all face is third-party tracking from apps and also websites. And what our phone does is at the device level, it blocks all this traffic. We designed a unique new firewall. The old approach to firewalls was interesting. It was very memory intensive and slow and drained a lot of battery from the phone. We designed a new approach that's way leaner. It's about 25 times faster, and we're able to hit a lot more coverage, meaning that the servers we stop connections with are 2 or 3 times greater than the old school approach where you have a fixed list, because we go after what are called wildcards, which are these servers don't want to be stopped by traffic blockers. So they sort of modify their address, and we're able to identify that. So what happens on the device is we're stopping this traffic. You're not having to outsource this to a server-based thing. We believe real security starts and ends on the device. Like that's a very, very important feature of our roadmap and everything we do. So back to the pyramid. The bottom of the pyramid is app tracking. That's not the only risk you need to deal with, but it's a very, very big one. And I think this is an area where we'll talk about other risks like Trojan horse stuff and other things, but this is one I think it's important for people not to blow by. Because please.
Didn't some guy use commercially available data to identify the addresses, families of an entire Delta team?
That's correct. His name is Mike Yeagley. He's on our board of advisors. He's a great guy. He's essentially a 3-letter agency consultant who does operations where he uses commercially available ad data to find adversaries. And not just like generally like adversaries, but like specific people with specific jobs. And he was trying to show us how much risk we have. So this is well known now. He made a presentation to leadership at the DoD a few years ago. And he goes, what I'm going to show you is not data I stole. I didn't hack it. There's no backdoor. I bought it, and it's not even that much money. And what he showed them was, here's how it works, right? Is he saw a news story that said a certain Delta team had been at, I think it's Fort Bragg. If I'm wrong, it's another one. But let's say Fort Bragg.
Sure.
So he saw it just on the news. Okay, Delta team had been at Fort Bragg. And then he saw in another news thing, it's rumored that Delta teams are in Syria. Okay, so he just has literally 2 data points. And he goes, boop, 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 buys data for Fort Bragg and Syria. And he goes, look, those phones, those whatever dozen phones are the same people. And he goes, where did they go after Syria? And then he sees some town in South Carolina, I believe, where they all live and their home addresses. And then when you see where they're sleeping, you go, what other phones are there? And then there's their wife's phone. And then because of the purpose of this advertising is to show ads like for Home Depot, when you're at Home Depot, you can get live location. So he goes through this presentation, and the way he describes it, like, I mean, you should actually have Mike on here. He's amazing. He's really awesome. Is like the room just sort of got cold, and these guys were like, whoa, 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 like, don't stop, get out of the room, like you can't see this. And Mike's just like, hey, this is commercially available. So the message here is, he picked, I think, the perfect way to tell that story, because there's really nothing more secret than like the home addresses of the wives of our Delta guys who are like, serious props to these guys. They're like saving the world, you know what I mean? And like they need to be protected. And he's able to find their home addresses and their wives' locations like this. So the reason that's important is if you can find those guys, assure you can find anyone.
That's insane.
Correct. So what Mike was showcasing is the ability to use this data to find an individual. This is very doable. And he showed it. It's very doable. You can also use it, and it is used, to say, show me all the people who go to Presbyterian churches versus Catholic churches versus mosques, that or gay bars or crypto conventions or the gun range. Like, so the concern I have is the national security risk that Mike is pointing out, big time, but also the civil liberties risk. The truth is, like, I don't know what I'm more concerned about, like China, which I'm very concerned about, or our country going tyrannical. And, some crazy, communist government suddenly deciding we need all the guys who go to gun ranges in church, like that doesn't sound too far down the road for me.
You look at what they did during COVID, and then you look at what's happening in the UK right now, where people are literally in jail for hitting retweet on the most benign memes.
And this is why, back to our founding, the founders created not only the Bill of Rights, but don't forget, one of the first acts in Article 1 is establishing the post office. And when you look at their debates, the purpose of the post office was the republic cannot exist if citizens can't communicate privately. So they made laws, established a post office. Post Office Act of 1792 says opening someone else's mail is a felony. A postal worker transmitting information about what someone sends or receives, felony. Encrypted comms and private access to news and information was part of the founding.
It's the most American thing possible.
Brother, correct. And so national security, civil liberties, huge risk from this bottom part of the triangle. It's very, very significant. Now, there are, different ways to solve this problem. I think it's very important to do this on device, because when you do it on device, you can do it with a lot more precision. and you can see which apps are making which calls. So like with 2 taps, I can go in and see exactly what crazy servers, Audible, for example. Like I like Audible. I listen to books on tape. I think 1% of the calls that Audible is making are legitimate. And my phone is blocking hundreds of calls by Audible to all these other servers.
Yeah, when you showed me that last night, all the calls it was trying to make from Audible, it was mind-blowing.
It's insane. So that's what we don't realize. We've quickly moved to this new economy that's subsidized by this. That's why it's been so easy and inexpensive for us, because it's subsidized by our data. So again, back to the pyramid, the bottom part is very important, and we think that needs a lot of attention. And there's other things we should be concerned about, like backdoors, which we'll talk about. But before you worry about the back door, like make sure your front door is closed and the garage is closed, because this is where like the way that the intelligence agencies find people to target with backdoors is with this front door. So the app data is big.
What's like alarming about it is as you're describing this, you are essentially describing how we dismantled terrorist networks during the entire GWAT.
And this is actually why the founders of our company, including Eric, they realized when Parler was deplatformed that we're basically doing to us what we did to our enemies, which is using the consolidation of technology to target and take people out. So yeah, basically the offensive capabilities that we were using during GWAT, our company is founded on using those for defensive pro-Republic means. Yes, this is real.
Incredible.
Yeah, this is very real. So that's like the bottom part of the pyramid. The next level up on the pyramid are things that, like, if your phone is actually taken, and then we'll talk about Trojan horse and digital intrusion into the phone. But a real big issue is your phone being taken. And there's a lot of scenarios we don't realize where the phone and the rights of the phone related to the phone are a gray area, especially like crossing borders. So a real thing that's important is making it easy for someone to protect their data physically on the phone. Let me just also, we'll sort of go step by step here. So the phone itself is also physically different. Our SIM tray doubles as an SD card reader, so you can actually store files that don't need to go on the cloud on the phone. We also have a physical off switch, which is really important because when you turn off another phone, it doesn't really turn off. It keeps going, right? So it's asleep, but still communicating with servers. This switch is like putting the phone in a Faraday bag. It's equivalent to removing the battery. The way phones are designed now, it's very intense engineering. Removable battery would make the phone a lot larger. So what we did is we said, you know what? All right, we're going to put a global switch on here that just cuts off all electricity. So
it's like a physical break from the battery to the phone.
Correct. So there's zero electronic activity. And again, we've had this tested many times to validate like there's no signal. So, okay. So third-party tracking, physically, we want the phone to be able to hold files offline. We want the phone to be able to turn off. We also want to make it impossible to break into. So we have some features that really help here. The first one is, my phone is set. I would encourage you to do this with yours as well. We have an auto memory wipe feature, which is very important because the way that phones are opened by law enforcement is primarily with a software called Celebrite. There are others as well, but they all really follow a similar pattern of using open memory activity to be able to sort of open the phone and force it open. So we have a feature that automatically wipes the phone, the memory when not in use. And we've actually been contacted by DOJ. They've arrested people with our phone and they cannot open it. Even all the way up to the Secret Service can't open it, which means like our government cannot open the phone when this feature is used.
Is there any way you guys could open the phone?
No. So they reached out to us and said like, hey, can you open this phone for us? And we're like, no, we don't have this ability. Now, this presents like an important moral issue. Some could see that and say, oh, you're like pro-criminal. It's like, I'm pro-Constitution. And I think our founders actually answered this for us. You know, they designed a system that really you have to prove guilt, not innocence. And they knew, wow, a lot of guilty people are going to get out on this system, but we got to make this call. And we feel very similarly here. So our position on law enforcement is we're insanely pro-law enforcement because they protect our constitutional rights. And we want to build products that mirror that commitment. So yeah, we've been asked, hey, can you open this? Someone was busted with illegal stuff, and can you open the phone? And not only can we not open the phone, we have no unencrypted data. So I mentioned like the photo and backup storage. It's encrypted from us. We don't have keys. This is different than Apple. So recently, you remember Apple was forced by the UK to unlock cloud storage. We just don't have that capability. It's like crypto. So when you sign up for our service, we give you the keys. We don't have them. So we have no unencrypted data at all. Another thing that's important when it comes to backdoors is what's open source. So what that means is, from a software perspective, anyone can analyze, build, view, comment on our software, and you can see for yourself if there's any holes or anything like that. And we have testing all the time to validate this. So yeah, we have no way of opening a phone. So the hardening with the memory wipe is really important to prevent anyone from using these commercial products to open the phone. This also prevents Trojan horse products, like you've heard of Pegasus or other things like this. These aren't apps that are being installed. These are basically like malicious files that are coming in through applications, and they're existing in memory. And when you wipe the memory, you eliminate the state that they can operate in. So it's not like an app has been installed on your phone. It's like something's running in memory, and when you wipe it, that thing is no longer functioning. So this is very important. And we have some, we'll talk later about this. We have some very exciting things coming up about sensing intrusion attempts on the hardware, which is pretty awesome. So, okay, we started at the bottom of the pyramid, which is app tracking. We go up to the physical access to the phone, being able to turn it off so there's no trace at all, being able to have files offline, being able to wipe the memory so that it can't be opened by third-party intrusion apps, or Trojan horse software can't exist in the environment. There's another product we're announcing like right now, so I can talk about it here, and we got some questions on Twitter about this. A lot of people will say, very rightfully so, what's the point of a privacy phone if the telecom companies are just tracking me? And like, I agree. So we worked with a really innovative MVNO called Pond, and we created a new data product that we're rolling out right now. It's exclusive to our phone, and it's different. It's a new type of SIM. We're calling it Renegade, like a nice Jeep CJ. Nice. And it's a SIM. You can do eSIM or physical SIM, but it's not a mobile phone SIM. It's an IoT SIM. What does that mean? So the cell towers, they basically transmit 5G and 4G for mobile phone SIMs or IoT, Internet of Things, Teslas, toasters, whatever. So this is one of those. There's no like phone number attached to it, although it does have an SMS capability. I'll explain in a minute. So what that means is you're on IoT, you're not on mobile phone. It's not regulated by FCC. So we're able to purge the location of your device in relation to the network every 24 hours. So rather than the location of your device being permanently kept by the telecom companies, Pond is purging it every 24 hours. So if law enforcement comes to Pond and says, hey, where was Dale? They go, well, we have the last 24 hours and that's it. There's nothing before that, which is very different than your permanent history.
Yeah, isn't a lot of the like the cell phone data capture just kind of a legacy of the old landlines?
Yeah, it's
where
so
they
crazy.
Just keep everything forever.
Pardon me. I mean, yeah, it's so crazy. Like a lot of this stuff, it looks like the intent is to track us, and it's not. It's a byproduct. Remember when like back in the day, like my parents like used to get a phone bill and be like, hey, did someone call?
Long distance?
Totally, right? So that's the reason for keeping all the information around, is so that they can have bills, and which no one has looked at a phone bill in like 20 years, right? So it's interesting, like, and we're really eager to work with the telcos to change these standards, because no one cares. It's just all data now. And this archaic approach of like keeping track of where everyone has been is totally out of sync with our Constitution. So we think this Renegade SIM is like an important first step. It's a really important first step in that direction. So the way it works is you have the SIM. You can get SMS for two-factor authentication. So if you want to set up Signal or WhatsApp or whatever on the phone, you can do that. But if you go to make a call, like with the phone app on the phone, it doesn't make a call. You need to either use a voice over IP app, like a VoIP app, or make a call on Signal. So you can sort of have other ways to do a phone call, but the phone itself is like way less traceable with this data product. So, this is another area that for people have good reason to be concerned about this. We think we need to innovate there. So this is a step in that direction. So again, the way we think about it is like a pyramid, and our goal is to give customers protection at sort of every level. Then the last thing I'll say, a really fun feature that is good to set up, is if someone makes you open your phone. So like, gun to your head, Dale, we need the secret. Open the phone. We have a feature called emergency reset, where you can put in a false PIN. And you can be like, okay, Mr. Cartel Guy, no problem. My code's 1212. And they don't realize they're entering a code that's going to erase everything on your phone. So our goal here is to give like backups for backups for backups. Nothing's perfect. Our perspective here is not like the phone is unhackable. Anything electronic is unhackable. That's why is hackable. That's why we have a hardware off switch. Because electronics that have no electricity are not hackable. So we think that's very important. Our perspective isn't it's perfect. Like, you can use our phone and make terrible decisions in your digital life and still have problems. But if you're trying to protect yourself and reduce your digital footprint, this product is taking people much, much closer to a desirable state and much more aligned